Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. This week, our guest is Loree Bischoff, and if you're a big wrestling fan, you probably do recognize her name, and maybe even her. Yes, her husband is Eric Bischoff, but she's a master life coach, and she's also an incredible woman with just so much insight into the human condition, the human mind, and the human life. This was one for the ages. I had such a good time talking to her. I'm 100% buying her book, which is in the notes section. You can get it for yourself. I don't even care if you get it. I would recommend you get it, but her insight and wisdom is profound. This woman has lived a very interesting life, but she's lived it with like a lot of balance and a lot of dedication to mental and spiritual interactions, let's say. Yeah, it's a great interview, and we talk about so many interesting things. I can't wait for you to be able to listen to it. So just an update, because if you guys have been following my personal life, I mentioned that my mother-in-law passed away, and then I was writing, if you're a fan of the essays I write, about my dad and everything. So my dad did have a major surgery. He did survive it. He's now rehabbing, and we're hoping for the best. We don't know where it'll go, but since this show is called Coffin Talk, I thought I would just talk a little bit about that and let you know that we're just in the middle of it all. So my wife is constantly, and with good reason, grieving. My children are young and trying to grow up, and as we talk about in this interview, growing pains, not just for them but for the parents. So I'm really just feeling the Middle Ages. I'm 44, and I'm really feeling like the pull of, I love my parents and I wish they could live forever. My wife loved her mom and wanted her to live forever. I actually wanted her to live forever. My children want all of us to live forever. I'm starting to see how much my children are depending on me and how that's very normal and healthy, but I do have to make sure I adjust that as they get much older, because someday, if things go the way nature wants them to, you're going to lose your parents. And then if you have children, they will lose you. And so I'm just in a weird process where I'm no longer the grandkid being shielded, but I am currently shielding the grandkids to whatever extent we can or should, and also not shielding them. As the host of Coffin Talk, I don't talk about death with my children, but I'm certainly not going to avoid it. The reason I started this podcast was to help people start thinking more about it in the good ways you should think about it, to plan how you're going to live your life. That's really the whole point of the show. I realized a long time ago, but I said it at the end of this interview. The people who tune in and really like the show, you're seekers, you're spiritual people, and you want to discover more and more profound truths that can help you live your life the way you want to live it. And I think that's the other thing I would say about the people who send me feedback. We're not exactly a common group of normal people. So maybe you also like normal things. Like I watch football, so you could say I'm a normal American, but I also host a show called Coffin Talk and talk about death and dying. So to all of you who support the show, just as always, thank you so much. It really does actually make a difference in my life. And I feel like this is a meaningful way to spend some of my time every week. And if nothing else, I get to interview amazing guests like Loree, who I seriously, you're going to see the second you watch her, the charisma and enthusiasm and joy that this woman has is just instantaneously there. And if you're listening, I have no doubt it comes through in the audio track. So either way, you're set. But thank you again to Loree for coming on the show. And thank you to our mutual friend, Amanda Webster, for introducing us and getting her as a guest on the show. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. This week, our extra special guest is Loree Bischoff. She's a master life coach and health coach with multiple certifications in life coaching and holistic nutrition. She's also the author of Common Sense Happiness, 5 Principles for People Who Want to Stop Whining, Bitching, and Suffering, with a foreword written by the late Hulk Hogan. And she's host of the We're Talking Shift podcast. Loree has been helping people up level their lives for over 17 years. And I should also mention that a very close friend of mine, Amanda Webster, introduced us. And so anyone Amanda throws my way is instantly a special person for this show. So thank you to Amanda, and thank you, Loree, for coming on the show. How are you?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. I'm alive. I'm on the right side of the ground. So that's a plus. And yes, Amanda's delightful. So very cool that she connected us.
Yeah. And thank you for giving us some of your precious time today. We ask every guest, how old are you? Where did you grow up? And what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
Okay. Well, I would be considered probably on the younger side of the baby boomers. I'm 64 4. Once you start getting up there, you have to start doing the math because you forget.
Yeah.
So I'm 64. So yeah, I think that's at the younger end of the boomers. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but I have been gone for half my life. I think we left there when I was like 30ish. So, but that's where my roots are. I still have family there, as does my husband Eric. So we get back at least once a year to make sure we stay connected and visit family. What else was part of that question?
Actually, you nailed it. That was everything. That was
That was
great.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And it's cool. It's good to know that you still are connected and you go back home and all that. Yeah, and it's weird. I'm 44 and I'm starting to get into that quasi weird territory of like, where have I spent most of my life? And so one of the reasons I'm interested in where people grew up is I think people like to collect the answers of the questions that we asked about death and then kind of figure out if there's regional influences and things like that. But 250 something interviews in, I see no correlation. So, but what I do find very often is that no one in this country seems to care about what generation they're in as much as the media keeps telling us we should care about what generation we're in. And I see that as a way to bring us together. So,
yeah. The media loves to find ways to fraction things. Yeah. In whatever way possible.
Yeah. And you're currently in Wyoming, right?
Correct.
Wow. I have been to all 50 states. That is the one I spent almost the least amount of time in and wish I had spent the most in. I thought it was astoundingly beautiful. It was I was there in June and there was a huge storm with lightning. It rained. It got like 30 degrees and then the next morning it was so hot I wanted to take my shirt off and I was just like, this place is awesome.
That sounds about right. I usually say the weather here is psychotic. So you never know, and it can change drastically from literally 1 minute to the next. And I've experienced what you have many times. In fact, you can be driving down the road here, and on one side of the road, it's sunny and blue sky. And on the other side, it's dark and raining. Like it's that, it's that severely different. But you get that. That's not unusual when you're in a mountainous area, which is the part of Wyoming that we're in. There's a large part of Wyoming, mainly the center going east. That's kind of flat and it's not as beautiful. But when you're on the west side and where we are up in the northwest, just outside of Yellowstone Park, it's mountainous and beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. And you've lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're in Phoenix, but yeah. So, one of the I moved here and then it just started getting overpopulated, which is where I left the Bay Area. So now I'm looking at places like Wyoming, which of course means people like you don't want people like us coming. I'm curious, has that already started? Do you have like a lot of people moving in now?
No, not really. Not. Wyoming is not for the faint of heart. Let's just say that, number one. Where we are, because we're just outside of Yellowstone National Park, it's kind of a wind tunnel. We get a lot of wind here. And when you're used to living in an area where you have pretty nice weather most of the year, to come to a place that has 4 seasons and every season but summer can be ferocious. It scares a lot of people away. There've been a lot of people that come in the summer because it's tourist season, right? And it's, we want to live here. We want to move here. It's wonderful. It's beautiful, the culture. And then winter comes and they're like, F this.
Yeah, totally.
We're out of here.
Yeah.
It scares people away, especially again, if you're used to living in a more temperate climate. But it's still the most least populated state in the country, including Alaska, which is wild.
Wow.
There's only about 500,000 people in the entire state.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Social distancing is just normal here. But no, I have found it to be very welcoming. And I think, it's just full of there's a lot of good people here, just good values, pretty, just nothing too crazy. And I think unless you're bringing all kinds of craziness with you, you would have no problem just making a great life here.
That's awesome. That's really cool. You're great at describing it too. You might want to work on their tourism board. That was a great sale.
Thanks.
And so, I mean, you've lived like an incredible life, and I could ask you tedious details and things along the way, but I'm actually just always enchanted by anyone who becomes a master life coach and a health coach, because as I get older, I realize all I care about is how I think and what I think. Like, that's all I care about is, do I have a good attitude or not? And if it's on the not side that day or that minute, what on earth can I do to get back to the other one? So how would you, in your own words, tell us about the evolution of getting to become a master life coach?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, Mike, I love that you said that you are really focused on what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Because that's the foundation for everything, in every way you're going to experience your life. It stems from that. So bravo, because most people don't realize that. But when you do, and you're aware of your thinking, and then, like you said, if you're not having such a great day or not feeling that great, you actually pause and, self-analyze and figure out, well, what was I thinking, which is likely the cause of how you are now feeling the way you feel. And that's the whole empowering trick, if you will, right there. Because as soon as you realize that you can change your thoughts about something, you can change what something means to you, and thereby you'll change how you feel. You'll change your emotional state. Whereas most people are looking for the cause outside of them, right? And then they want the outside thing to change so that they can feel better, which is completely backwards. And disempowering, because now you are not the master of yourself, right? Yeah. So I guess as far as, what brought me to coaching and becoming a master coach and all that goes with that is I just have a fascination with what makes people tick. Cool. I love understanding psychology and the mind, and just sort of unwinding it all and trying to figure out, all right, if this is your experience, or this is your challenge, or this is what's making you have such, success on your terms in your life, what are the things, what's the formula, what's making these things happen or not happen? And because that's just been a fascination of mine since I was, I don't know, a teenager, really, a high schooler probably, I think is where it started, late high school. It just was this was just a natural place for me to land, especially since I had to rule out any type of counseling, therapy, psychologist, because I refused to go to college. So that took all of those things off the plate for me, which was just fine, because then along came life coaching. And by the time I discovered that, I had already, been in a successful marriage, had raised 2 kids. And so I had all of this valuable life experience now under my belt. I had also been doing my own work in spirituality and self-help and, personal growth and all that stuff. I had been just, learning on my own for decades. So by the time life coaching floated past my radar, I was like, well, there it is. I didn't have to go to college to help people after all. I can go learn about this and get good at this and still check that box, which is what I then did. So
wow,
that's how I learned why.
No, that's incredible. And I have like four questions to ask now from just that was great. So one of the things I want to get to, but not first, is just success on your terms, because like I said, that's like the major phase I just entered and I'm trying to really understand is like my whole life success was definitely someone else's terms and I was definitely running up a hill that made no sense.
Yeah.
But before I get into that, just because you mentioned it and I was impressed, I'm in year 6 of my marriage and I have 2 young kids. Can you please just give me some of your wisdom about marriage? It's not like my wife and I are on the rocks. It's more that like it's just it's hard. It's a lot of compromises and like conversations in your head that you wonder if you should say out loud. So I'm just curious, since you are a life coach, like what is your general, because you have made it. You are a actually successful married woman. Like that's why I'm asking. So just to be clear. Hi, everybody. This is Mike Oppenheim, the host of Coffin Talk, the show you're currently listening to, and I'm interrupting to ask you if you would mind doing me a favor and subscribing to my online publication called You Are Here on Substack. It features weekly essays. I also have fiction, and of course, there are links to the podcast and all the bonus episodes. It's completely free, and I would love your support. So please head over to mikeyop.com, that's MIKEYOPP.com, and sign up today. Thank you. Bye.
No, I love that question. We've been married for, I'm doing the math again, since 84. So what is that, 41 years?
Yeah.
41 years. So 4 decades. Wow. And it's been such a cool ride. It's been such a cool ride to be able to have journeyed through the larger part of your life with someone who, you've grown together. Because when you get together, I mean, we were in our 20s when we met. So, now that I'm in my 60s and I look back at, people in their 20s, including ourselves, I'm like, wow, you're still like barely a notch beyond babies. I mean, you're still, right? You think you got the world by the tail and you're super smart by then, because you're smarter, hopefully, than you were, when you were 17. But you're still just not even scratching the surface yet, right? So it's really cool. I think, there's a curve when you are together for that long a period of time, starting out at such a young age, because there's going to be, hopefully, a lot of growth in that time. Both people, if they're, living life in a really healthy way, are going to continue to grow. If not, sorry, I don't think that's so great if you stop growing when you're in your 20s. I mean, that's not good. So hopefully you're both going to grow. And what happens is, as each person is growing through their phases and getting, just life experience, doing the things that you want to do, need to do, have to do, there's going to be some speed bumps. There's going to be some challenges. So most people seem like they're giving up too easily when they hit those points. Mm-hmm. They think that this person is not right for me now because we're banging heads, or we're in disagreement too much, or, whatever. They're not supporting me the way I need it. Whatever the situation is, I feel like people just give up a little too easily. I mean, sometimes, obviously, that doesn't apply to every single, scenario. There are some scenarios where things are not good, and they're not good for a reason that you need to get away from that person. So we're not talking about those kind of situations. But in general, especially if you've made the choice to have children together, you owe it to yourself, to the other person, and of course, to your children, to really, really think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how can you work together to grow through whatever those, those phases are, where maybe you're just not in alignment. And if you are willing to do that, once you get to the other side of whatever, speed bump you've hit, it's so good because now you feel like, wow, look at what we did. We figured this out together. It was hard. It was uncomfortable. We figured it out. And now things are 10 times better than they were before. And that's going to keep happening. It's going to be something else is going to come up. There's going to be something that comes up, whether it's related to, work or finances or who's spending time where, and stress of raising kids. I mean, there's a million things that are going to challenge you. But that's when you have having a partner to go through this stuff with is the best thing, because number one, if you can remember that you really love this person, and if you really do love this person, then you would want to see them evolving and support them and be their biggest fan and cheer them on, right? And the other thing is that partner is going to hold up a mirror to you and show you what you might need to work on. But people don't like that.
Yeah. Definitely not. Yeah.
So you have to be willing to go, you know what? This seems to be a pattern that, recognizing the patterns. If there's a pattern, if there's like a recurring issue that comes up, it's going to be one of you or both of you. And you're holding up a mirror to each other. And that's your opportunity to go, there's something in me that maybe I need to work on here. And my partner is showing it to me.
Wow.
And if you can get with that, because usually people want to blame the other person and nobody wants to really do the self-analysis to go, maybe I have some work to do here. Right. But if you're both willing to do that, it takes two.
Wow.
Then it just gets better and better. Everything gets richer as you keep moving through the phases and the years go by. So I just think that if you can be willing to understand that you're going to go through stuff and you're not going to grow at the same pace, or you're not going to have challenges at the same time. So somebody might enter a phase, perhaps it's something at work and they're really stressed and they just go through this phase. Maybe it's days, weeks, or even months where they're just really hard to be around. They're in a funk. They're hard to be around. Well, as the spouse or the partner, you might be called upon then to be patient, to be supportive, to help your partner get through this. And even if you're like, man, this is not what, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to have to be the one that handles all of this. And I'm always the support. You can go into that, but, barter system, like, this isn't fair. I don't get enough of this and they're getting all of that. I mean, if you get into that mode, it's not going to work. You have to realize that nothing lasts forever, including bad phases, unless you're really a miserable. But, sorry, I hope there's no kids watching. You better warn before. But, and there's chances are there's going to come a time when you yourself may hit one of those phases. And then hopefully your partner is going to return the favor and help you deal with whatever and be patient until you work through things, because you grow, but you grow like this, not at the same rate. So just, it's not rocket science. It's kind of like watching your kids.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Yeah. That's, okay, so don't go into tourism for Wyoming, because you sold that even better, and that was like truly profound. I really understand, and right now is one of those weird periods where, like, my wife, and she wouldn't mind me saying this, her mother just passed away, and it was pretty sudden. It was like a brutal cancer diagnosis followed by like a very weak chemo experience that wasn't gonna stick, and then just down. And so I know, because I used to work in hospice and grief counseling, like, to a certain extent, that it's just going to be a really hard period. But what's different is like I feel so much compassion for her because it's not like her attitude about work. You know what I mean? So like it's interesting that even these can throw a wrench in, because then I do get into that barter mentality where I'm like, okay, this is like the 15th night where I've walked the kids extra because, and it's not even like I'm mad at her. It's just more like, when will this end? And then I start looking at it. So when you said that, that was such a beautiful way to describe it, that we each are going to take turns. Cause that's something I don't think I ever would have seen coming, is that it really
Right.
is staggered. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's either if you fall into that, okay, I'll give you this if I get this back in return. Like I'll give you all this time and support, but I want to make sure I get this back
Yeah.
as soon as I need it. So
Yeah.
then, it's sort of a barter system and you're keeping score.
Yeah.
And if you're keeping score, then it's just you're not going to have a fulfilling relationship.
Yeah.
You just won't.
Wow. And then to kind of go back to the two other things you said, because I'm especially curious, because this will tie into when we ask you about what do you think happens when you die. You said that you had like a spiritual path, which is always interesting to me. And then I'm kind of tying it into why I ask background questions. I associate Minnesota as like a pretty American Christian state. And it's not that I'm assuming you were raised that way or not, but I am curious, were you raised with any religion? And then did you break off, or how would you explain your spirituality?
The short answer is no. I was not raised with any particular religion. My parents did not go to church on a regular basis. In fact, I don't remember ever stepping into a church with my parents. So I think not a regular basis. That's not even accurate, like ever.
Wow.
So there was none of that. However, my mom in I guess the 70s really started diving into a particular type of spirituality, which would be called New Thought spirituality. It's which is still a Christian based spirituality. It's just without it's without the dogma and the kind of fundamentalist all the laws and all that. It's more takes into consideration the teachings of the Bible, the teachings of Jesus, and sort of the laws of the universe, if you will. There's very much of a metaphysical foundation to that. And so it opens things up in a way that, for me anyway, is much more, it makes sense. So you can take things that don't seem to make sense out of the teachings of the Bible, and you can make sense of them when you read them from another perspective and understand the symbolism of some of the things you're reading. So naturally, my wonderful mother passed those books on and planted those seeds to me and my sister. There's just the two of us. And that just resonated so strongly with me. So when I was a teenager, basically, I started learning about that kind of spirituality, which would include things like the law of attraction, the law of reciprocity, just other things that maybe more traditionally religious people would not connect with spiritual teachings. I believe they are. Yeah. So that was the beginning of my path, and I just couldn't get enough of it. So I have been studying that since I was a teenager. So a long time. Yeah.
That's cool. And so, yeah, I guess this would be a great time to ask. So what do you think happens when you die? Is it tied into that?
Yeah. It's such a great question. I thoroughly believe that, first, let me say this. First, let me say, I don't know. Because I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Do we really know? But what I believe is that the only thing that dies is the physical body. I believe in the eternity of the soul. So I have a firm belief that I existed before I entered into this day and age in this physical body, and I will continue to exist after I leave this body. What happens beyond that? I don't know, but I am a very optimistic person, and I think it's going to be good.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's great. And actually, I think tied into that, have you ever had what others would call like a supernatural experience here on Earth? Have you ever had an experience that made you believe that souls are eternal? Like any communication, signs, things like that? It's okay if the answer is no.
I know. I wish I had a really cool freaking story, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
I asked, I'm like, come on, can we do something really cool to talk about here?
Yeah.
But hasn't happened yet. But never say never.
That's interesting. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I am really, really open, Mike, to the idea of reincarnation. I think that that's a good possibility. Because if we are here to experience and evolve, if our soul is here to experience and maybe learn and evolve for some higher purpose that we're not sure what that would be yet, I don't think we can evolve that much in one lifetime. There's just too much. There's just too much. And if we use one of the great master teachers, Jesus or the Buddha or whoever is your person or your thing, if we use that as a model to strive to emulate or to live up to those standards, like how many of us can do that in one lifetime?
Yeah, totally.
Right. So I'm like, even the best person that is like friggin' Mother Teresa type of person, Gandhi, whatever. Nobody that I know of reached Jesus status yet, other than Jesus. Not that that has been recorded. So I'm thinking, maybe I've been here quite a few times before, and maybe I'll be coming back. I don't know, but I think it's a valid theory.
Yeah, I love that, and I actually apply when we were talking about marriage, and you did bring up children, and I didn't comment on that part of it, but like usually, if my wife and my kids are like stressing me, like all three at once, I'm like, this is the lesson. Like, this is actually the Jesus lesson. Like, more than anything, like, turn the other cheek, all that. Like, I mean, talk about it in real time. Like, to
totally.
treat, And with children, they'll. I mean, I don't have teenagers yet. I can't even imagine.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing interview. We're wrapping up. We're not done, but I always will give you the chance to have the floor at the end of the interview. Before we get into that, I would like you to help our audience with success, with that word, with that, because it was a big deal to me. It still is a big deal. It's something I meditate and ruminate on a lot, meaning that like even like just the American culture is just so success oriented, and I believe in the good side of that word for sure, but I also believe it can be really detrimental to us. I'm not forcing you to talk to those points, but just to let you know where my mind's at with it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really easy to get swept up in someone else's or a cultural definition of something like success or happiness or what have you. And you really have to train yourself to pause and go, but what does that really look like for me? What's my idea of success? What's my idea of happiness? What's my idea of peace, harmony? Most emotionally stable and mature people want those things, but how they experience them will be different, right? And so you have to, I think it's just so easy to be conditioned and coerced by the culture, advertising, media, influencers, which is what all that is, right? Celebrities, politicians, your neighbor, whoever, the person that you admire and think has the world by the tail. and it's just so easy to compare yourself to what you perceive they have, he or she has, or what you've been told you need in order to be happy or successful or whatever. And that, comparison is such a thief, and it will make you miserable. You So it really takes a strong sense of mental fortitude to keep your eye on your own life and what things you want to do or be or have that will bring you your idea of success, peace, happiness, whatever you're seeking. Riches, fame, fortune. I'm not saying those things are those things are great if that's what you want, but not everybody. I think sometimes people want them for the wrong reasons, or for reasons that aren't healthy, or they think that the only way to measure success and happiness is by artificial things or superficial things, money, material things, status. And so if those are the things that you're going after, and you are happy and you love that, and you are doing no harm to anyone else on your way to those things, awesome, cheering you on. But if you're miserable and you're going after things that you think you have to or should, or for the wrong reasons, and you're not happy, and maybe your relationship is on the rocks, or you never see your kids if you have them, whatever it is, there's something that's suffering or you're sacrificing in your life that at least at one time must have been important to you. Then you need to take a pause and really evaluate, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And is it worth the cost?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I This happens too often to me. Like now, that would be the best way to end the podcast ever. That was just such a great like microphone drop speech, as they say. But unfortunately, that's not how I end the podcast. I always like to give my guest the last word. Meaning, is there something I left out? Is there a message that you're dying to give to my audience? And one of the reasons I do this is my audience is like a very eclectic group of people. Our downloads spike, and sometimes they're higher or lower. But I do know that the feedback I get is just like this group of people who are all vaguely spiritual seekers, just people trying to figure it out. So do you have anything you want to tell my audience today? And it can be long, it can be short, whatever you want.
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. I think, one of the things that you said a couple minutes ago about like, wow, the kids, and sometimes, that's the stress that's coming up with just everything that's going on. And you have to pause and you go, wait, but this is what I'm supposed to be, learning and growing through right now. And I think that actually is something that people that are parents or are planning to become parents really need to take note of, that because that is so true. That is one of those things where now you've taken on this responsibility to literally do the most important thing on the planet. Right? You have brought a human into being. Right? You took that responsibility and said, yes, I am going to do this now for at least, trust me, it goes on longer than 18 years, but for at least 18 years, you are going to be going through a growth spurt that you can't imagine you even exists until you're in it. Yeah. As a parent. If you're not growing and having the growing pains of parenting, then you've probably got some maturing to do. And your kids, I think they pick you. I believe that their little souls have their, we all have an agenda, and believe that we choose who's going to be our vehicle to come into this incarnation, right? Yeah. So they pick us. So, and we are being entrusted by our Creator to take really good care of these tiny humans who are going to challenge the hell out of you. Right? There's going to be like freaking no sleep, and there's going to be puke, and it's just, messes. They're going to throw it all at you. And wow, it's the best ride freaking ever. If you can just remember, I chose this, and they chose me, and my creator sanctioned this and said, so be it. Go do a good job. Make me proud.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? And even if you're not a parent, you may, maybe you're a teacher and you have a classroom full of kids, or maybe you are an aunt or an uncle or whatever. But for most people, kids somehow play some sort of a role in their life. And I think it really is one of the greatest opportunities to evolve as a human being that is on the planet. I believe that. So don't underestimate that. And I think the other thing that I really want to drive home is the thing we started with, which was your thinking. It's the root of everything. And the way you think about things is going to either give you a profound sense of freedom and empowerment over your life and how you experience it, or your thinking is going to cause you to be disempowered, have a victim mindset, and feel like you are limited. And so that's something that is really important to work on. And that's something that I work with pretty consistently with every one of my clients, because it's so foundational to everything. So mind your mind.
That's awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Loree. You're incredible. I took a million notes in my head. I also take notes for post-production, and it's just all amazing, good stuff. Also, congratulations. You sold a book today to me. I'm definitely going to buy your book. And just to repeat to everyone out there, it will be in the notes for how to find not only her podcast, but her book, but it's Common Sense Happiness, 5 Principles for People Who Want to Stop Whining, Bitching, and Suffering. I am not doing all 3, but I am definitely having kids and going through all 3. So thank you so much. I really am touched by your approach. You're just a very candid, honest person, and it's awesome. And the best thing I get out of doing these interviews is just collecting the consciousness of my peers, people who are on Earth at the same time as me. And so much of what you said gelled with me, and it's just good to know you're out there. It's good to know people like you exist. So thank you. And thank you, Amanda, for bringing us together today. And to my audience, as you know, the best way to support the show is just to head over to mikeyop.com. That's MIKEYOPP.com, and sign up for my subscription service. I will make you laugh. I will sometimes make you cry, like last week when I talked about my dad. But it's okay. It's all good for you. So please sign up if you want to support the show. And please check out the notes for Loree Bischoff and how to not only approach her if you want her work as a health and master life coach, but also to buy her book and to check out her podcast. So thank you to everyone. Once again, my name is Mike Oppenheim. You have been watching or listening to Coffin Talk, and we will see you soon.